Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Dom. Hi Dom, how are we doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Manny. Pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's all good. I think out of every situation I've managed to get myself into and talk to certain coaches, I will have to say you've probably got one of the most unique positions I have ever spoken to. You're up there with maybe Paul Comfort, where he's training astronauts now, but
Yeah.
before I spoil what you have going on, if you give us a little introduction to you and how you got into strength and conditioning.
Yeah, so my name is Dom Thomas from Montgomery City, Missouri, small town. Was a 4-year collegiate athlete at Missouri Western. There, I was lucky enough to become the first graduate assistant strength and conditioning coach. So I think I was better at lifting weights than I was a college football player. But I was blessed to get a few leadership awards and was knowledgeable and well liked throughout my peers and coaches. So took on that role. That role led me to a few internships. Spent some time down at Michael Johnson Performance. Met some amazing colleagues, friends to this day. Left there. Went on to Indiana University. I had a part-time graduate assistantship there as a strength and conditioning coach with their football team. Was there for roughly about a year and a half, departed, and then circled back around with Michael Johnson Performance. Got amazing opportunity to be the strength and conditioning coach for. They sent me over to China on behalf of Michael Johnson because Olympians know other Olympians, and the 2022 Olympics was in Beijing, China. So was blessed to go there to represent MJP, Michael Johnson Performance, go over to China and be there, working my way up to be their head performance coach for short track speed skating, which is ironic because here we are with the Winter Olympics again. So I'm tuning in as a lot of the athletes are still current. But was there for about a year, and then COVID happened. So COVID happened, departed, came back to the States. Really didn't know what to do. Left the international city. Kind of wanted to go to another international city, so moved back to Missouri for a little bit of time, then jumped over here to Las Vegas. I'm currently in Las Vegas. Pretty much did a lot of coaching in the private sector, and then pretty much one of the coaches that worked under me at one of my time in China reached out to me, and he had a colleague that was a strength and conditioning coach for Cirque du Soleil out here in Las Vegas, and so asked me if I'd be interested in this opportunity. Told me, yeah, why not? Was unsure about it. I didn't know that the circus had strength and conditioning coaches, but touched base, and I've been here ever since, so haven't looked back. So in a nutshell, I'm one of the strength and conditioning coaches for Cirque du Soleil out here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Damn, this is so fucking cool. Before we get into some of the topics I kind of want to talk about, what's something that's currently firing you up in this industry or within your specific role? This is a quick shout out to our main sponsor on this channel, TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is all-in-one platform that hosts programs, questionnaires, testing, anything that you may need for your athlete's performance, you can host it in TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder also now has 2 different sides, which is OS and Practice. For more information on TeamBuilder, check out the link in the description. And if you use code PAChalkup all together, you will get a 30-day free trial.
Within my role, I'm gonna be specific to the athletes that I work with because it's starting to fire me up even more. I'm glad you said that. It's just when working with a lot of artists one-on-one who do not have that background in strength, because we're getting people from all over the world. So if I get for example, I'm gonna keep it very situational. So if I'm with one show and we get one artist that was a former gymnastics for the University of Arizona, I'm just throwing an example. They kind of have a history of strength and conditioning. They had a collegiate strength and conditioning coach, and vice versa. If I get another athlete that's coming from, or artist that's coming from another part of the world, they might not have been blessed to have a strength and conditioning coach during their upbringing. So the training ages are completely different. So being able to pretty much target them and educate them and get them up to speed to accomplish goals and basic achievements. And then also with that same breath, being able to work with the people who had former strength and conditioning coaches and former guidance, and having them pretty much still be the best of their ability within their role, within their act, within the show. So that's kind of what's firing me up right now, even more than normal, just because we have a lot of new artists and a lot of new athletes. So I'm just getting introduced to a lot of these new individuals. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's really
it does.
firing me up right now.
It does, because and I think this is perhaps something that not a lot of people might know or understand is that you're not getting acrobats in, like solely acrobats in. You're also getting like swimmers, divers,
Correct. Correct.
gymnastics. Like you're sort of you've got this melting pot of athletes that are coming in. How is their development sort of looked at from the time they kind of walk in, and what's their progression like?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that spot on because each show is different. I think in Vegas right now we have a total of 5 shows, and each show is completely different. Like my main show is the O show, so I will say that we have Naj, so we have swimmers, we have contortionists, we have divers, we have gymnastics, we have acrobats. So we have a lot of these roles who have different physical demands and the body demands and needs. So the way to pretty much progress all of them is whenever they arrive, we put them all through a fitness evaluation. Do all a fitness evaluation where we track their upper body strength, lower body strength, VO2 max, and then also their core. So there's some individuals that come in and they're hitting the marks already. So we already know, okay, they're physically strong. Maybe we may need to increase their VO2 max and get them ready for show because there's an integration period. So it's not like, hey, you land on a Tuesday, jet lagged and all, and you're in shows next Monday. So that's not the case. So I have a little buffer time to pretty much get them to the physical standard of which we feel fit. Some individuals are already at that base when some need more guidance. So based off of that fitness evaluation, it gives us a good marker or a measuring point of, hey, this individual needs more work. This one doesn't need as much. But regardless, all of our new athletes stay strength and condition. They have S&C 3 days a week until they get accustomed, because right now they're not in shows that much. So they're not expending that much energy. So upon the initial arrival, we already attacking like they need as much work as possible.
So with obviously you've just mentioned their testing and how you kind of look at that. What are specific tests that you're doing so what tests are you doing? What's that telling you about how long they'll be ready to step on that stage and do the performance essentially?
The performance, so we have a total of, like I said, we measure every plane. The 5 tests we do is a step test. So we do abstract step tests. We do a total of 5 minutes. So we'll take the heart rate at 4 and 5. And that's pretty much allows us to measure their VO2 max without going out and killing them. It's a pretty basic test, and it gives us some basic numbers, and we feel like it's a pretty good test without, like I said, killing the artist. Our next one to test their lower body is trap bar deadlift. It's obviously, this is based off their body weight. Certain acts require more load to be moved than other acts. For example, some artists, female artists, they're fine with, because of their act, it's okay with them to lift 125% of their body weight, versus some acts, they need to be doing 200% of their body weight. So that's the lower body. Upper body, then with upper body, we have multiple acts. If they're aerialists, they need to be able to pull themselves up. So we'll do a pull-up test. If they're nage, not so much, because they're in the nages, I apologize. That swimmer, they may not need to pull themselves as much. Let me break down the terminology. They may not need to pull themselves up as much, so we'll do hand release push-ups. So we'll use that to test their upper body strength. And then core. So we'll do core in each plane. We'll do a pronated core, supine core, lateral right, and lateral left. So we have a formula algorithm that pretty much kicks out the numbers. So if they score a 5 is the best you could get. So for example, if I did a pronated plank, if I did 2 minutes, that's our max. That's a 5. Just to give you a brief example. So if they're 5s across the board, obviously they're ready to go. They're physically fit for shows, but they still need to be taught the show cues, this and that, and pretty much the playbook in a sense. Mm-hmm. Now, if we get an artist and their heart rate's through the roof, they're physically weak, and all lifts, all exercise, then we know we have more work to do. So we may prescribe them 4 days a week, S&C. So we'll take that as a higher approach, and before they go to the show, we will retest. So that's pretty much the landmark or the units we use to measure where a athlete or artist is, and pretty much how we plan to integrate them.
Nice. So something that you've said I found quite interesting, and it's the level of the test that you're doing. So what's widely regarded as a good VO2 test is you get on a treadmill, you either go incline or incremental, or you just go for as long as you can with whatever test. So I find it quite interesting that you've went step because it's low
Yeah,
demand, but you're
yeah,
still getting the same level of again, it's measurements. You're getting the same measurements that you're needing. I find that very fascinating.
yeah. And I forgot I left out. We do 90 beats per minute. 90 beats per minute. So
Okay.
standard speed, nothing over the top. But if I apologize if I leave out any details, just circle back around.
No, it's all good, and I think I mean, it speaks to a little bit more of the theory being on one side, and then the practical on the other side. Like,
Yeah,
if you're flipping through the air, there's no point in running.
correct, correct. It's not it's not it's not realistic
Yeah.
to the skill, but at the same time, we don't want to uniform every
Mm.
test. Like for the swimmers, we don't want to put them in a pool because then we're going to be modifying each and every test for everybody. So what's a basic umbrella test that we could pretty much do that targets all the artists, all the athletes?
I think it's as well like with the training ages that you're finding. What's the breakdown of like, okay, you're in this group or you're in that group, you need 3 days, you need 4 days, like how is that all sort of coming together?
So I would say it's a lot of it's my assessment or and us our coaching to assessment as a team once they arrive. Now, if somebody passed the fitness value but they barely scrape past it, I'll go to coaching and be like, hey, this individual's weak here, here, and here. It's my recommendation that we need 3 to 4 days of S&C, and my goal is to target X, Y, and Z because they have imbalances here, they're immobile here, their range of motion is lacking here, and for us to pretty much for them to go into the show healthy and do the best service of not only themselves but also the audience, it's my recommendation that we do this amount of training. And then coaching is very, very supportive, whether it be our performance medicine staff and also our coaching staff. So if we give recommendations, we always have full support. And then also just having that conversation with the artists. Hey, based off your approach, we've seen these X, Y, and Z. We're going to attack these during our training sessions just to fix this. And a lot of times it all starts with culture and conversation. And that's across the board. That's with other coaches and then with the artists. That's the approach that I take, and I feel like the other coaches, the other strength and conditioning coaches, I've worked with them as well. I feel like we're all on the same page, same boat when it comes to that. And that's pretty much our approach when it comes to signing additional. Even if somebody comes in and they're phenomenal, we still subscribe them minimum 3 days simply because they're new and they're not doing anything else. They're not in shows. So they're not in shows. So they have more energy to expend. Yes, they're doing training. Some days they'll be more in training, but it's not like they have a load following after that training session, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. What does the split look like for those 3 to 4 days?
So 3 to 4 days, I target, because this one I want to highlight. So the sessions aren't long sessions. So I would say my sessions range from 30 minutes to an hour. If you're a newcomer, it's going to range longer to an hour. But if you're already in shows, it's mainly going to be 30 minutes. Because here's the thing about these artists. Some of them have full families. Some of them have careers or side jobs prior to, and then they have to go to perform 2 shows. So it's a different setting from, let's say, we go to the collegiate setting or another setting where this is their sole job and responsibility. Some people, this is their only career. But what I don't want to do is gas them out, burn them out before them to go on stage and go them on pretty much for the show. I would say standard layout with an artist that's been with me for quite some time is going to be 30 to 45 minutes. And the things I'm looking to target is we'll obviously start with the warm-up or ramp warm-up. We'll do some prehab, some band work, just to activate the areas in which we're looking to target for that session. Squeeze that in there. Then we'll hit some core lifts, and depending on the act, we'll put some explosion in there. I'm going to use my Russian swing, for example. Russian swings are my divers. With them, we have a lot of shoulder prehab at the beginning of it, and then we'll follow by our core movements. So we'll do some, let's say, trap bar deadlift, just to tax the nervous system, followed by some jumps. We'll get some stabilization, and then we'll finish with some upper body and then some core. So I like to go for full body 3 days of the week. If I do have them 3 days a week, simply because the stimulus we have is not enough. It shouldn't be enough. That's pretty much making them abnormally fatigued. With that being said, there are times when they come back from their dark is their 2 week vacation, where we are more sore than normal. Or if I just change the program entirely, we will have more DOMs than normal, simply because they're being exposed to a new exercise, new movement. But I like to pretty much touch up on a lot and make sure we're kind of maintaining, but keeping the body and the stimulus fresh, versus just beating them to the dirt, if that makes any sense.
100%. I've also had some coaches. Well, this originally came from one coach. Shout out to Anya. She is in Switzerland, sorry. And she deals a lot with gymnastics, dance, where athletes are slightly bendier than most.
Yeah.
And she gave this great example of end range strength, and it kind of sounds like that's what you're sort of touching on as well, because they are having to be exposed to like this very stretched out ranges. How are you dealing with making sure that, yes, they're doing stuff to their bodies that isn't looked as healthy, but how do you keep them healthy in that sense?
And that's a great question, because really, at the end of the day, I'm looking for practical strength, usable strength, and things that correlate the most to their act. A lot of these things, if I'm being honest with you, Manny, a lot of their acts and the things they do, I've never done before. So a lot of them, they're like, Dom, have you ever done? I was like, I don't know what that
You've
feels
not
like.
done 3 flips in the air and then dove into a pool?
Exactly. So they're like, Dom, Dom, hang from this strap real quick. And I'm like, oh man. So you see how it feels. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, okay, so it makes me step back in my programming. And I'm like, okay, well, they're already doing this. How can I pretty much enhance that or do something that they're not doing? One thing I will address, a lot of them are, not I'm gonna say a lot of them, but some artists have imbalances. So in the strength training room, we're going to attack those imbalances. So during your act, you happen to flip this way. So you flip this way time after time. So your body's naturally going to be off balance. So what we need to do in the training room is we need to counteract that and go the opposite way, because you don't do it as much. So those are the things that I pretty much aim to attack, aim to target. A lot of shoulder stimulus. That's in all acts, because no matter our divers, when they dive, they go into the water and pretty much impacts their shoulders. Nage always impacts their shoulders. Straps. So I'm big on shoulder health. Our catchers, our trapeze catchers, huge on shoulder health. So that's some of the things I use. I would say I use more of an approach to activate stimulus and just for all around health and stability. That's my approach that I take. I'm a big weights guy, but it's me increasing unless an artist comes to me like, hey, this is my goal to achieve this amount on whatever exercise. We will do a lot of strength barbell based things, but it's not as important as the small interior things. And that's in my expertise and my time with the circus, what I've experienced.
Yeah. How are you looking at load management for them across their training and then their time with you?
So load management, this is something I had to get used to, because it's not like a traditional sport. Like football season, you have an off season, you have an in season, you have a preseason. Here, they do 10 shows a week, which is roughly a little bit under 500 shows a year. So they get 2 weeks off. Is there dark, or is there a break? And then another sometime throughout the year, they'll sprinkle in maybe 1 week off. So that's a lot of volume. So typically, I'll use that dark as a small off season. So we'll do a big push. When I do know at dark, because each show has a different dark, when I do know we're coming up on a dark, I'll do a huge push. I'll prescribe, hey, we're doing 40% of your body weight, non-negotiable, on this bar, if you feel well that day. Obviously, if you have a high training load day, we'll modify, but we're doing a big push up until dark, because I know once you're going that 2 weeks, as you should, you're going to enjoy that. And when you come back, we're going to rebuild. The beginning of the week, whatever day or whatever show I'm with, because they all have different beginning of the week. It's not a Monday through Friday position. For example, their beginning of the week is Friday. That's when I try to pretty much load them up. That's when we do more of a barbell work or trap bar work or our squat work, but it's not abnormally high volume. Like I said, I give them a range. We're going from 50, 80% range, depending on how your body feels. Simply because a lot of times their training load is so high in conditioning with the shows. So I give him a grace period on that, and then I monitor to it. If I see an individual and I feel like he's not maximize his load, then I'll have this conversation I'll have in the heat of the moment with that individual. It's pretty much an umbrella, if that makes any sense.
100%. How are you keeping track of all of this?
No. But well, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, we use that. So I'll go back and pretty much months back, and I'll pretty much like, okay, this individual's doing this much, or these acts we're doing. When I say acts, I mean that's a group. These acts we're doing this much weight or this training. This is the progression we've made thus far. So I know X amount of months back we had these progressions. So now we're able to attack these exercises, these lifts. So that's the platform that, as a company, as of now, that's what we use.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because obviously with different groups, you'll have different goals. And I mean, I don't know if this is a fair statement, but you're kind of looking at like if you're on an Olympic side of a collegiate, you've got your different teams and how you prepare them is slightly different. Would that be a fair assessment on how you look at your different acts?
Of course. And one thing, and I'm not gonna say a challenge. One thing that was difficult for me is it's not difficult, but anytime I go to a new show is like programming wise is completely different because you have different acts. So now, not too long ago, I started programming for Mystere. So Mystere, they have a lot of teeterboard, they have a lot of power track. So with these, I'm like, okay, the first thing I try to attack when I got there, okay, got with PMed, what issues or what injuries does this show encounter the most? And it's completely night and day from O. When I came from O, it was we dealt with more lower back, shoulder, but when we got over to Mystere, it's a lot of ankle to fib, simply because it's a more explosive show, I feel like. So pretty much redirecting my programming standpoint. So from this show, our focus is pretty much how can we be more reactive, work these ligaments, reduce these amount of injuries in this parts of the body. So, and it's completely different from another show. And if I were to go to another show, might be another list of injuries. So with that being said, yes, each act has to be approached completely different because their body has different demands and their act has different demands.
Okay. Again, with your permission, obviously, I know previously you sent me a video of what I'm guessing is O group. If you don't mind me sharing so people can get a little bit more context of what injuries you're sort of talking about from the movements that they're exposed to, would that be okay? Or
which one are you referring to? Because I can't remember which video I sent. Oh, of course. Yeah, you can use that.
Okay. No, again, like I mentioned, I always like to ask before I do stuff, and I can always cut
me and the
out.
divers are like this.
Okay. Let me take a timestamp so I know when to come back. So I will quickly show what you're referring to. So
that's Russian swing. That's our divers.
Which the way they flip is insane.
Especially
coming from that swing.
Yeah.
So insane. Like as because of the way that they're swinging or coming off the swing, rotating, and then high impact with that shoulder into the water, I'm guessing that's where some of your lower back and shoulder issues are coming from.
And this is something that I just learned through just speaking with the divers. Obviously, like I said, I've never experienced that, but once you break down and do the assessments, it makes sense. Anytime you get that high impact, repetitively, time after time. So once I receive this feedback from the divers, I just do my best to pretty much do my research. How can pretty much we attack this within the weight room? Well, if it's going to continuously get impacted, we need to make it stronger, and that's what everything. Their abductors, all that stuff. So Copenhagen, we've incorporated that into it as well. I really enjoy programming for our divers. Some groups are just more natural to program for, and the divers for me is one of them. I just it's intriguing, fascinating. I tell them all the time, and this is no disrespect to any other act, but I told them in my former circus life, I feel like I'd be a Russian swing.
With you've kind of mentioned like the training ages can be all over the place depending on where their sort of background is coming from. With a lot of these acts and performers, I'm going to guess there's not like you don't owe your this program. You kind of have to individualize everything for them and specify to their needs, obviously. How is that sort of breaking down, and how do you make sure that they're tapping into everything that they need during their sessions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So each show, so the show right now, I'm with two shows. In the past, I've worked with other shows, but at the moment, I'm with O, which roughly has, and I may be off by a few, but O roughly has anywhere from 85 to 90 artists.
Wow.
And then I'm with Mystere. Mystere has, again, anywhere from 85 to 90 artists. So I'm with both of these. So I'm 3 days at O, 2 days at Mystere. I do split Mystere with another strength coach, but I'm doing 50% of the programming. Moral of the story, with that being the case, so each act has their own S&C plan. So for Naj, for example, Naj is our swimmers. I believe there's 23 Naj artists. So they have programmed 2 days a week S&C. They all have the exact same program based off of the exercises and movements I feel like they're best fit to keep them healthy, and then continue to progress and get them stronger for their act. Now, all the newbies, so let's say we have 4 new Naj individuals, they're going to have 3 days a week, and all 3 of their days, they're with me every single one of those 3 days. So I'm coaching them one-on-one, pretty much that they're doing these movements, and I'm adjusting it. So that third day is a specific day just for them. So it's pretty much programmed. So let's say if me and you are both brand new swimmers and you have these imbalances and I don't, then we'll have 2 completely different third day programs. So your third day is going to attack X, Y, and Z, and mine are going to be maybe things just to sharpen me up. But regardless, if you're new, you're going to be with me 3 days of the week. So I can see hands-on how you're doing these movements, making sure you're progressing, and so on. Now, for my more experienced people, so some Naj artists have been there 10, 15, anywhere from 5 to 15 years. Now, with them, I don't need to watch them every set, every rep, etc. But they will come in before the show. I'll see them. I'll be present. If they have any questions, they know I'm there, and I will coach as or when needed. But a lot of my attention goes to the newbies, the new individuals, simply because they may have a low training age, or if they do have a decent training age, I want to make sure that we're implementing the proper movements and proper patterns. So that's pretty much the approach, how I prescribe and how I dictate who gets what and how the load is handled.
Nice. You've talked about like the impact on the shoulders and how that's one of the biggest things you kind of look at. What's like a plan that you usually implement, and how does that change from injury to injury?
So plans, the thing is, some of the injuries, they'll be injury, and then we'll address that, and then I'll improve. But just because it improves doesn't mean I just throw it out the window. So I put that in the back of my calendar, back of my closet, for when that, well, hopefully doesn't reoccur again. But that's something that I always am mindful, and it's a revolving door. Because when that's fixed, it's possibly another thing, whether it be another, now it may be lower backs with bateau, which is another, it's like kind of a gymnast style act. So I guess is trying to be proactive. I think that's my biggest approach I try to do is when I'm watching the show, because what I do is I watch the show and I watch them practice, and I pretty much try to replicate their energy systems and what movements they're doing in these energy systems. So, and I like to visualize, even though, like I said earlier, I've never experienced some of these movements. Okay, this artist is upside down catching another human body, so they probably need this movement, or they probably need this. If I get ahead of the game and program this to target these muscles in their body, then these injuries may never occur. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we still have issues that we have to address. But that's pretty much what I try to do, is watch as much of their training as possible, so I fully understand the demands and the needs. I would say that's the best tool that I've had the past 2 years I've been in this role, is trying to be proactive versus reactive. Like I said, I'm always going to be reactive. They're always going to be teaching me things about aches, pains, just simply because I've never been a performer. But the best thing I could do is equip myself to pretty much know what they're physically and actually doing. And that pretty much, I feel like that's been the best motivator, educator, and learner that I've had within my time in this position.
Nice. With obviously you're always planning for what could potentially happen. How are you? So you said like they could have 10 shows a week, which is 500 plus a year. How are you mitigating all of that?
It's
unique.
Well, It's unique. Yeah, like I said, so strength and conditioning is mandatory for their contracts when they sign,
Okay. Okay.
which I'm thankful for because that always wasn't the case. That always wasn't the case, and it's kind of something we've kind of, I think, Cirque's done a great job of realizing the importance that, hey, if our artists are stronger, then they're less likely to get injured. So, but there's a lot of times where an artist will come to me and they're like, Dom, hey man, like I'm beat. We trained for X amount of time. I've been here since for this long. I got S&C, and then we got two shows. Like I'm just gassed. I'm like, all right, man. Uh, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. Just lay down. We're gonna do some active recovery. I'm gonna do some passive stretching on you. Just do whatever I could do to get your body right. Simply because I think you just being immobile throughout the day is, even though your body may need it, but we'll do something just to get you afloat and get you through to the next. So I am understanding and considerate of that. I do understand that it's a lot. And like I said, I've never done, I mean, I've been a former athlete, but I've never done 10 shows. I've never
Mhm.
done 10 shows. So on that standpoint, I have to be open ear and being considerate and make sure if we have to monitor the load or the incorporate more active recovery, I'm more than for and all for it. And they know that. And I think that's why we have the relationship that we do, because they know that I'm not just going to push them through the dirt and I'm there for their well being at the end of the day.
What's your education, or not so much education, but what's your, I know what I'm trying to say, but it's hard to word it because it's not actual formal education. But like, I'll give an example that might be easier. So like, obviously, strength coaches, we read a lot and we try and keep
Yep.
up to date on a lot. Now, I think
Yep.
this question is coming from, I don't read everything, because if I look at the methodologies and it doesn't apply to what happens on the real field, I just don't read
Yep.
that research paper. Again, it's good to read so you can keep up to date with everything. But with your role being so unique to Cirque du Soleil, and there's not researchers actively going around Cirque du Soleil and following everyone,
Mhm.
how are you translating these new advancements in the field into what you're doing?
Yep. So I mean that's a great, because some things just aren't feasible. I would say with that being the case, I still learn as much as I can just from either my own training methods so that I can practice on my own. A lot of the things I read, like I said, they can't correlate to this setting. Just because they don't correlate to the setting doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to learn and strive
Mm-hmm.
to educate yourself. You just have to be realistic with yourself. And hey, this is great. I just read this article about increased force production. Even though this is something, I'm a big sprint mechanics guy. I still do a lot of research in sprint mechanics. I train myself sprint mechanics, but this is information I rarely will take to any of our cert artists. But simply because it may not translate into that setting doesn't mean that I don't strive to continue to educate myself on those. With those, I just have to pretty much do the best ways. I focus a lot on rehabilitation. That's the majority where my education goes. I would say right now it's reading articles. A lot of people I follow, they pretty much have a lot of good knowledge about pretty much returning to play, returning to recovery, and things like that. So I would say before I was in this position, I wasn't that big on it, but I feel like that's my main focus now, because if I could get an artist to feel better, then their trust in me goes next level. As soon as someone realizes that you can make them feel better and relieve pain, the trust just goes to the roof. That's something I was all about prior to Cirque, being a former football strength coach. I was all about force development, one rep maxes. You know what I mean? How can we generate our power output to so? But then I still learn and educate on that stuff things. I knowing that it won't correlate to the current setting I'm in, which is fine. I'm completely fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, my approach now, my setting now that I spend most of my time learning, which I haven't done in the past, is rehabilitation and pretty much returning to play, and pretty much um, load management.
Yeah.
Those things I focus on.
So that's this the I always find that interesting. So I've got this theory of, so it's widely said in this industry that anytime you read something or you go to an event or a clinic or whatever, you're sort of building this toolbox. You're learning new things. You're adding tools to your toolbox. But I've essentially been thinking of this toolbox, as opposed to just one toolbox where you have all your tools dumped in, it's got layers. It's got 3 or 4 layers to
Yep.
this toolbox. So like the first layer is like your go-to tools that you use every single day for
Mhm.
most athletes. Your second tier of this toolbox is more so like if the top tier doesn't work, okay, I still know that this can be applicable and this can work there or whatever. Third becomes like an experimental. So I've
Yep.
learned this great thing from this article. I've learned this great thing from the clinic I was at. Let me put it in, when you learn, it'd essentially be fourth.
Yep.
So it'd be your fourth. You're just learning these things. Your third would be you're experimenting with them. So
Yep.
like I've learned this thing, but like let me see how I can apply it to my current setting. And so it's like, and tools can move obviously up and down depending on what phase or whatever is needed from those athletes at that specific point. So I'm
Yep.
always very interested on like how are we taking new information in, and how is that like slowly trickling into your program?
Yeah, and I mean that's the name of the game. And then, like I give a lot of advice to younger strength coaches, and that's why I tell them, I'm like, coaching is your own art. The best thing I could give, I was like, the reason why people do internships is they take a little bit here, take a little bit there. I'm thankful in my career. I've been in the collegiate setting, I've been in the private sector setting, I've been in international setting, and now I've been in the circus setting. So if I was in just in one of those settings, I feel like I would be nowhere near as feasible or as well rounded as I am. Coaching is the art of just pretty much taking what I like in my collegiate setting, what I liked in my private sector setting, and kind of mixing it. And pretty much you're going to build and build. Some things aren't going to fit. It's like a puzzle. Some things aren't going to fit here, but some things can be shaved, molded, and they pretty much can be adjusted to where they could benefit in this setting as well.
Yeah. With the sort of private, international circuit and collegiate setting, how has that sort of influenced the way that you program or the way that you see athletes' movement and go from there?
Are you talking about from the mechanics or just the structure?
I'll say structure.
Structure. I would say this is like a mixture of both, all those. I mean, that's a great question. I always say this time, this is a mixture of, it's not as much, because I explained to some of the artists, I was like, if you go to a collegiate weight room, it's like a factory. It's literally like a factory. Okay, we're starting at this time. We're doing these exercises, these movements. Boom, boom, boom. If you go to the private sector setting, it's a lot relaxed. So pretty much you make adjustments on the fly. I would say the circ setting is a mixture of both. It's a great mixture. Some depending on the show, some artists have a structured set training time, and they come in and I'm there. Hey, Dom, if we need you, we'll get your guidance, but I'm making sure everything's done properly. And then I'm one-on-one with some artists. And then sometimes some artists just trickle in. They know I'm there from this time to this time. And hey, I just know I need to make it to Dom sometime throughout that day. So it's really a mixture of both. There's some groups that will work out together, and some artists will just come in and work out on their own. So if I don't know if that paints a picture for you, but it's really like a mixture of both, which what makes it unique. Because I enjoyed it, but I've never been in a setting like that. It's either all hands on, like in the collegiate setting, like, hey, we're doing this time at this tempo, or it's in the private sector where, hey, today this is our focus. We can adjust as needing. This one it's literally a mixture of both.
Nice. How do you keep an eye on everything? Because if you've got like 170 plus athletes or performers, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they're athletes. They are athletes.
Yeah, it got, so when I first joined circus, I would always say athletes, but they use the term artists. Same thing, same thing. They are still athletes. So it's a learning curve for me to say. It's kind of embedded in me to say artists now. So with that being said, Manny, so they're not all in the weight training room at the same time. Keep in mind that they're not all in the training room at the same time. So I'm there probably so yesterday I did Mystere from 1 to 5. So maybe 5 to 10 artists will trickle in that first hour. We'll get some downtime. I'll watch them training on stage, and then another 10 artists will trickle in. So out of the 90 artists, I may only physically see 35 during that day. So their training, their strength and conditioning days aren't mandated on those days.
Okay.
If you're a veteran, you've been in the game, you've been in Cirque 20 years, it doesn't matter if you do it this day, that day, as long as it gets completed. And we have a way to monitor that. Now, if you're a newbie, that's when you're with me one-on-one. or if any artists they want additional work, which I'll program them. So I've had one artist at Mysteria, which is another show of ours, and he has a much larger training age. So we have deadlifts, we have more compound cluster sets, and with him I'm on with him one on one. He's getting one on one personal training, but not everybody wants that level, if that makes any sense. So if there's any overachievers, I work with them one on one, hands on a lot more. But if there's some artists that are in there and they're just pretty much they know it's required, so they're coming in there doing their thing. They're in and out. And some people they use it as a warm up right before their show. So if a show's at 6:30, they'll come in at 6 o'clock. Right when I'm about to take off, I'll monitor them the first 10 minutes, and then I'm out of there. Or some people they do it before shows or after shows.
After shows is insane.
It's insane because they get done at like 11. I know it's what some people do it.
Yeah, it does sound very relaxed, and I think by the sounds of it, it sounds like there's a lot of an autonomy in there.
Yeah.
Where finally, words are hard today.
Yeah.
Where they are being responsible for their own performance.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, Manny, I mean, I think they understand they're all professionals. A lot of them have been doing it a long time. A lot of them understand. I think a lot of them understand like what the strength and conditioning coaches are there to do, with their to benefit and aid them and put them in the best possible position for them to be successful within their act and the longevity of their career. So I think they realize the importance and vice versa. We respect them that they're doing what they need to do as well. If you need additional work, then we'll bend over backwards to help with that. But if your program is all that you need, and if you have any questions, then we'll keep it at that.
I was kind of expecting a pun intended there from bending on backwards.
I didn't realize it.
One thing that you said that's quite interesting there is the longevity of their performance. And I think this is something that I talk a lot about. And it's like we are there to make them stronger, faster, more powerful, whatever word you want to use. But at the end of the day, we're doing those things so they can play longer into their career.
Correct.
So like our main focus is their longevity. How are you looking at their longevity, and what are ways that you're looking to extend that for them?
So, like I said, the best thing I could do is just prepare them through movements and exercises that's going to make them as strong, as capable as possible. By no means am I here to amplify their workload to where it just takes away from their actual job. And these are just conversations I've had with them. And like I said, once you sit down and have a conversation with some of the artists, like, hey, this is why we're doing this. If we don't do this, then it's going to expose you to this imbalance, this weakness, that, and which is going to put you out of shows. And if you're out of shows, then that's not good for anybody. That's not good for the show. It's not good for you. It's not good for myself. So pretty much just informing them, doing that, and I said, giving them healthy, well-rounded programs. And then after you need additional program, I've had so many artists come to me and like, hey, Dom, I feel like this isn't the best program for me. So I'm okay. Well, tell me this is why I think these exercises are beneficial for you. And it's not an argument. It's just a conversation. I'll meet you in the middle. Like, so if you think you prefer these and these because you've done in the past, we can meet something that gravitates towards that, but they still need to be completed. Because I gave you the best program in the world or the worst program in the world, but your intent and your actions towards it goes much further than what I provide for you within this programming.
What is something that you feel like is underestimated about these athletes or performers?
That's underestimated. I don't know. That's a difficult question because I can only speak from my standpoint. I mean, I give them utmost respect. I think a lot of them glorify how I lift weights, but I've been doing this as long as you've been doing flips.
Oh no, so I meant, and like from an outside perspective where people are thinking, oh, they're just bendy or they're just doing flips over the air. Like, what do you think the outside thinks that actually in reality it kind of works differently?
I don't know. That's still a difficult question for me. A lot of these individuals, I know them on a personal standpoint, so I just know how educated they are. And them being circus performers are just only one of the many skills in which they do have. I mean, a lot of these individuals, I mean, they come from a family of circus, or they've just kind of just picked it up on a limb, and they've been outstandingly successful and great at it. And it's just, like I said, it's just one of the small tasks that they've accomplished. When they're on stage, you don't know that they have this much education. They're successful in real estate. They're successful in this business. They're a business owner. because a lot of them are go-getters, I would say, and that's why they're at the level in which they are. And it kind of just motivates me to be even to match their energy and match their level of professionalism and expertise. I'm like, yes, they're phenomenal artists. They're phenomenal artists, phenomenal athletes. But for the most part, they're also outstanding people as well. And that's what made them take the leap to leave their comfort, leave their norm, leave the normal 9 to 5. And some of them still have a normal 9 to 5, and they still leave that. And afterwards, they come and do the performance. So that's, if I could highlight anything, I would say that these people are often, pun intended, juggling a lot of things, and they're capitalizing, and they're great. They're not just average at a lot of things. They're great at a lot of things.
Yeah. So that's a really good point because I was at UW with American football guys, and it wasn't until I got there that like those kids are educated. Like
Mm-hmm.
they've got, well, they're obviously athletes, but they've also got like undergraduates in topics that are just insane. Like I had a couple doctors in my racks, and I was like,
Wow.
so I was like, that's really intense alongside being a full-time athlete as well.
Man,
So like,
I could tell you so many people that have blown me out the water. I don't want to say their names, but we have one artist at Mystere, just phenomenal guy. He's an American, but speaks multiple languages, which is kind of abnormal for American. Not to knock us or anything, but he's a doctor as well. I think he's in doctor. He's in school to become a doctor. But doing that and still performing full time, and then so many other artists that just have thriving businesses. They're successful real estate agents. So you just got a lot of stuff going on, and a lot, like I said earlier, some of them have families, 5 kids. You know what I mean, and still coming and then working, doing shows because they have 2 shows a night. First show at 7, the second show at 9:30. So not getting home till 12 each night and waking up at, I don't know, they wake up at different times, but still, if you're going to bed at 12 5 nights out of the week, that's
long day.
with kids. So it's just impressive.
Yeah, I think that's something that we don't look a lot at. Is like they still have like backgrounds, and like so like there was an individual. I'm not going to name names, but he is now in the NFL, and like when I was so I like to know my athletes on a one-to-one personal basis, so I can have that connection with them. And like during being a full-time athlete, he was on scholarship, so it did make it a little bit easier. He was like, "Yeah, I'm doing my undergrad in real estate and my grad in, I think it was business." So like he had 2 majors. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
fuck, you've got those two. So like you're pushing educational wise, but you're also still coming in here
Yeah.
and pushing hard. And like he was one of the top performers. Like he was insane. Um, so like when he now made it into the NFL, like I know that everything that he's worked for panned out, but he also still has like the ability to come out and do all these other great things alongside
Yeah.
his career.
Yeah. I don't want to say things to fall back on, but other avenues, I guess that's a better
Hmm.
term. They still have other avenues. And I would say a lot of the artists that I speak to on a personal level, they have the same thing. Anybody that's going to just move across country, I don't think they're going to not give it their all. Or across the world, I don't think they're just not going to give it their all.
100%. What's a performer that changed your perspective of some things in this industry and how you approach their programming?
One, I don't know if I could say one. I would say all of them. I learn every day from them, honestly. I learn every day from them. Just many things. I mean, they just how to program, what's everybody's training load, everybody's training age, just knowledge. I feel like here in the States, we kind of strength and conditioning is a whole different animal than it is globally. So I think just some of the conversations, things that I think would be normal. I'm actually educating other people, which I may have known for years, if not decades, that I may have learned in high school that some people they just don't. It's not a norm to be taught that. So me learning that makes me be appreciative, and also knowing that I'm doing an impact and being an educator to a lot of these artists, a lot of these individuals, whether it be something as simple as giving them a proper warm up. They've been doing the act for years, but they've always suffered from activating the upper body from a warm up. So being able to help them with a few tweaks here and there. So I can't really pinpoint. I mean, there's some individuals that we talk daily about everything under the sun, whether it be training, Cirque, things like that. But that's one thing I'm really am fortunate and grateful for is everybody has a story. I understand, enjoy learning about everybody's history, their path, what led them to where they are, no matter the age, no matter the background, and it's just unique. It's unique. I think my story's pretty interesting, but everybody has an interesting story. So that's one thing. I every time I get a new artist, I look forward to just learning more about them just as much as we are training.
So I'm Portuguese, and the podcast has heard this story so many times, but I'll say it again. There's a saying in Portugal where it translates to you can learn something from everyone. Even a dumb person, you can learn not to be them. And it's kind of this essence of like, speak to everyone because you're going to learn something. Even if it's not to do that one thing, you're going to learn how everyone sort of just clicks and paints this bigger picture in life.
Yeah. And that's perfect. Like I said, I've had some interns work under me, and during the exit interview, we've had a conversation. They said, "Want to thank me for everything." They're like, "I really want to do your coaching method." I'm like, "Hey, I'm just doing all I know." They're like, "There's gonna be working under me. You're gonna learn there's things you liked and you didn't like. You're gonna go to get it work under somebody else. You're gonna realize there's things that you liked and you didn't like. What's important is that you capitalize on that, and whether you liked it or you didn't like. If you didn't like it, make sure that you don't be that person, or you don't use those coaching methods. If you liked it, make sure that you replicate that and do the best to pretty much enhance it. If not, be more impactful." That was greatly said. You can learn a little bit from everything and everyone.
What's some advice that you would give new strength coaches or coaches coming into this industry?
Be open to learning. You're never going to know everything. Be open to learning and be adaptable. The strength and conditioning industry could be a monster at first, but it's going to set you up later down. I feel like if everything's handed to you and you have a smooth pathway, then you're not going to realize how grateful or how good you have it later down the road. I think that's why I feel like I'm blessed to be in the position I'm in, because I've gone through so many. I don't regret any of those situations I went through. They made me who I am. They made me the coach that I am. You need those to build. I have those conversations with our PMed and other strength coaches all the time. But if you never experience those, you're not grateful for the good times that you do have.
100%. Now, this could be a funny question. So the industry is currently, and it's not to diss the industry because I do it too, how much are you jump testing your athletes?
That's funny you say that. So we did just get a software. And we have sensors. So it is one of the tests that we're able to do. In the past, probably when I was in China, we jump tested every day. Every day we'd force plus the jump test. Right now, not often. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I think I could see it changing in the near future. But if I'm being honest, only certain acts, only certain artists. I think only people I really need to jump test are acro dunkers for Matt Apple. I feel like our Russian swing. I think them, and maybe our power track tumblers and our teeter board. Outside of that, I don't really think we need to jump test anybody. But that's just me. But that's funny you said that, because I just had this conversation with another strength coach yesterday. Right now, not. In the future, maybe slightly more, but only with certain acts, only with certain artists. So
that's exactly what I thought you were going to say. The reason I asked is because, like, obviously it's context dependent. Currently, we're on this frenzy in this industry where, I mean, I've also been public, so it's not a shocking take from me. Jump testing isn't everything. It's very much context dependent. Like, you're not going to, I don't know, jump test your swingers,
contortionists,
your acrobats, or contortionists.
Contortionists are bendy individuals. We're not going to jump test them.
So it's this thing where, like, I'm trying to explain it. I know I sound like a kook when I say this, but it's like jump testing isn't everything. It does tell you a fair amount from a readiness standpoint, but like you can also just ask them how they are. Yeah.
And I mean that's the first question I ask we have a readiness test, but that's the first thing I ask them when they arrive. Hey, how you doing? How you feeling today? How's training? Just get up in their business and be with intention. But
you have to build trust. They have to be honest.
Correct. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I think some sports jump testing would be like I said. When I was in China, we did short track speed skating. We jump tested every day. I see no issue in that. It's an explosive sport. I see no issue
Hmm.
in that. But
That's
it
what I'm saying.
doesn't.
Like
It doesn't.
I jump test some of my athletes for that reason. Like I do know it's important, but I also don't
Yeah.
think like it should take up most of your session to just get this one metric so you can move on and do the program they had anyways.
Yeah. Man, it takes up a lot of time. It takes up. It took up. That was the first 10, 15 minutes. But I think once we get the ball rolling with that, I think there's certain athletes that it would beneficial for, but it'd be a handful. It's not the whole team, not the whole 90 artists, not the whole 90 artists.
And I think as well for you, if it's people trickling in, it's going to be really hard for everything to click in as well.
Yeah, yeah, it could go either way. It just depends, because like I said, sometimes I get swamped. Sometimes there's nobody in the training room, and then sometimes everybody wants to come at the same time. So I'm working like with like five athletes, and I'm coaching one, and I'm yelling, "Hey, hey, you do this!" And so I'm just coaching from all over. But it's organized chaos, but I love it. I'm not gonna lie, Manny, I do love it. And if it just keeps me sharp, keeps me on edge, and it makes me feel accomplished. So I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's it kind of I think we thrive off of chaos. Nothing's going to be smooth.
Mm. I think that kind of fits into the advice that you have for new coaches as well, is being that adaptable, being like so with us going the path that we do to become strength coaches, there is a lot of type A type qualities in there, and type A usually requires structure, you require
Mm-hmm.
continuity, consistency, where
Mm-hmm.
in strength and conditioning that's not a reality. Like you're
Yeah,
getting
it's
pushed
not.
and pulled different directions,
Yep.
ever changing metrics. There's ever changing ways that the athletes are coming into the weight room. One day they could be over the moon, the next day or half hour later they could just be flat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do we
Yep.
adapt and how do we make sure that they're still getting what they need for that session?
Yeah, and that's what makes you. I mean, you can't just walk out with a script and read that, go off that script every day. Things are going to change. You're going to get a wrench thrown at you. So just being able to adjust to adversity and honestly, you don't want anybody leading with you that they can't adjust to adversity. You're here asking me to adjust to adversity, but you have to be willing to walk through the fire yourself. And I think that's one thing I'm confident in. That's one of the biggest learning curves I've had, again, working with Cirque is most of all the exercises they have put them through, I've experienced because I've done them in training themselves. A lot of their exercises, I had to be the test dummy. I'm like, how is this going to feel? For me, if for them it doesn't feel too bad, but for me, someone who doesn't do all their flips and tricks is very unpleasant. But the fact that I'm still able to put myself in that discomfort zone just so I could when I am coaching, it should feel like this. And this is pretty much you have to breathe and exhale in this way. So that's one thing I'm pretty passionate and proud of as well.
Do you have an example? Because now that's very interesting to me.
Of course, we have Copenhagen weighted Copenhagen planks. I've started doing those a lot, putting those into my program. They're not overly difficult, but they're I've never had that stimulus before. Another one is our contortionist. So we have a weighted pigeon pigeonhole. So
Yeah.
that one pretty much I have to grab optimal weight. I grab about 60 pounds, put myself in the pigeon. I'm elevated, and pretty much the gravity is pretty much pulling me down. And I have them do it for 30 seconds. So it's a passive stretch. So I have to hold that for 30 seconds, and it's very. I'm not as flexible as them, so it's very uncomfortable. But I have to pretty much find my breathing pattern. So when I'm coaching them, I could give them the exact same. And that's only a few. That's only a few examples. I mean, there's a ton. With acro jumpers, we did a lot of. I've gotten kind of back into trap bar deadlifts, into explosive jumps. I've done them before, but I haven't done them in a while. Putting those back into my program, so when I am demonstrating, I'm sharp. I'm sharp, and they actually know what I'm talking about. But those are just some of the ones that I've had to sprinkle into my own programming, just so pretty much they know I know what I'm talking about.
That's a very interesting point. Obviously, a lot of their cues will come from holding breath or breath work
Yes,
itself.
yes.
How are you sort of implementing that into the training?
So the training is pretty much to coach them how to control their breathing, and pretty much how it can correlate to their acts. So hey, at this sticking point, you need to be an exhale or inhale, whatever part of the lift that they're in. So pretty much just, and then also when I do passive stretching with them, I don't do passive stretching with everybody, but pretty much when to hold their breath, when to inhale, when to exhale, and pretty much how it would correlate into their act. Even though, like I said, and a lot of the times when I work with them, because like I said, they're like, well, Dom, you've never done our act. So a lot of the time, this is where I build my trust with them. And like, hey, this is how it would represent or correlate to your training, to your act. And that's just really have to build trust, because I can't go on stage and coach them. So I have to do my best to coach them in their closest form through exercise.
Have you ever had the opportunity to do some of their work?
Yeah, they call me out. They call me out quite a lot, and I'm very. I'm telling you, so they'll be like, we'll be in the training room sometimes, and just some simple things. So like, Dom, get up on that ring and do a muscle up, and I'm terrible at muscle up. So they'll be coaching me through it, and like giving a round of applause. Handstand. I remember my first day on the job. I'll never forget. I showed up, and then one of the coaches, the head coach, he's like, Dom, come here, do a handstand as long as you can. And I'm like, so the artists, they flip me up, and one has one leg and one has the other leg. So they both have my leg, and they just hold me. And they made me hold it for a minute. But that's about it. I think at COD one time they made me hold from the straps, and they made me spin. But they love calling me out when they get a chance. when they get.
I think that's also a great representation
of
sorry, go on.
No. You go.
I think that's what makes a great coach, is like your ability to, like, you're probably going to suck at it, but you do it anyways, just to have like that connection with them. That's sick.
Yeah, and it makes me feel better, because I kind of feel like we're connection. Oh man, I start sweating immediately. Anytime I'm not good at something, nobody likes to put themselves in that state, but it's good to do that, and it's good. It makes you grow, and it's not natural. You understand? It's not natural. What's natural to them is not natural to me. But it's always feel better after I've done it, no matter how many of them are watching.
Dom, appreciate you so much for coming on today and sharing a little bit of what you do and the story behind Cirque du Soleil and how that sort of fits into strength and conditioning. This has been awesome.
Of course, Manny, I greatly appreciate it. Anytime. Like I said, I'm blessed to be a part of your podcast and share my experience. In the future, if there's anything you need for myself, if you ever make it out to Vegas, I would love to give you a backstage tour and have you meet some of the artists. It's never a matter of if somebody comes to Vegas, it's when they come to Vegas. So when you come to Vegas.
So I've previously been in the US, but I've only been there once. And I was working with the University of Washington. But with this podcast, I've made so many connections. I think this will be 6th or 27th episode. So like I've spoke to a lot of coaches, so I need to do like a whole tour of the US and meet a lot of the connections already. Funny story as well. So I told my fiance, I connected with Dom's in Cirque du Soleil, and she's like, whoa, really? And she's grew up watching some of their clips and whatever else, and I was like, yeah, it's sick. So she'll probably love that too.
Yeah. Like I said, it's fascinating. It truly is fascinating. And where are you located right now?
Scotland.
So I don't know if they travel through Scotland, but if they're ever in a touring show and they're in the area, just give me a ring.
I can Google it just now. They'll probably for sure do England.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're for sure will do England.
They do Scotland, Glasgow actually, or they have done Glasgow. That's interesting. That's an hour and 45 minutes away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's Just let me know. Just let me know whenever we swing through, and then if I know any artists on the show, then maybe I can see if I can hook something up, like a photo or backstage.
Appreciate you so much.
Of course. All right. Well, Manny, like I said, greatly appreciate it. Anytime.
Sorry, before I get you out, if you let people know where they can sort of reach out to you and ask any questions if they have any.
Of course. So I am on Instagram. So Instagram is domtom.fit. Domtom.fit. I will let you know that's just me smashing weights and giving coaching content. So I've had that for quite some time, but that's where I could be found. Feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, any interest about anything, please feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Go follow him. Peace.